This is WPSL Port St. Lucie.
The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. Welcome to the African American Scene, presented every week at this time by Howard Insurance in Port St. Lucie. The African American Scene is hosted by Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you here on a Wednesday night. Woohoo! It is the night before the Mueller report. Oh. So, well, anyway, you know that's got to be one of my topics for tonight.
I was kind of, I kind of thought maybe.
Yeah, you think just maybe? Yeah.
You never know.
I got to tell you, I just finished reading a book. It's called Blood Defense by Marcia Clark. And you all know who Marcia Clark is.
From the O.J. Simpson trial, the murder trial.
And evidently she wrote, I've since discovered, she wrote a series of books about this attorney, Samantha Brinkman. And it's a legal thriller, and it's got a lot of twists and turns. And I needed to read something light because I've been reading so much heavy-duty stuff recently. So that gave me a nice break, and it was kind of exciting, and it took you on a foray where they were trying to determine who the murderer was, and it's got a lot of nice little twists and turns in there. So if you're just looking for a book to sit down and read, just to give you a little entertainment, I would suggest that one. I would tell you also that I just started another book called Economic Hitman. I was an economic hitman. This is back onto that more heavy-duty stuff.
They're like being a collection agency?
Yeah. I'm only about 35 or 40 pages into the book, and man, it is heavy. And it's a realistic story from a guy who engaged in the profession of being an economic hitman, which none of us really know about. And I'm surprised just after 30 pages he's still alive to be telling this story. But so I'll keep you posted on that as I continue to go through it. And then finally, I read an article one of my college buddies sent me about white fragility, and I sent a copy of that article to one of my conservative friends, and he sent me back a YouTube of the author, Dr. Robin DiAngelo, where she's giving a lecture about the book. Now, he's probably listening tonight because he does listen to me. And I asked him about it, and he has different opinion about it than I do. But it might be worth it for you to go out there and see if you can find that YouTube. It's almost an hour, though. I never did finish it. I got through maybe about 30 minutes because I was working. I was trying to watch it while I was working. But I promise you I will continue watching it tomorrow. But so those are three things right off the bat. Like I said, the book, The Blood Defense, I got to tell you, it's been a long time since I got into a book where like every minute I could find, I was sitting down trying to finish the daggone book because I wanted to see what happened from, you leave off and they're in one predicament, and then you go back and you start reading and they get in another predicament, so that's one of the joys of reading. So, okay. So, open mic night tonight, and here are my topics. Topic number 1, do you support the tax increase for our education system, especially our teachers? Number 2, teacher salaries nationwide. I was able to get a printout of what most of the starting salaries for teachers are nationwide and what the average earnings are for teachers. Number 3, I have a report you are going to find absolutely fascinating. This independent organization did an assessment on 60 Fortune 500 companies and what they paid for taxes or didn't pay. And if you recall last week, there were several people that called up and argued with me about the fact that, so what if they paid a less percentage than us because the actual amount paid was more than us? Not so sure you're going to continue to support that argument after I give you this overview of exactly what has transpired. And I also was challenged to find out what happened with the lottery money last week, and I did just that. I went out, and I'm going to give you an idea of what happens with the lottery money and what has happened with the lottery money since 1987. Number 5. This is a dandy. Should the Mueller report be submitted without redaction? Should the Mueller report be submitted without redaction? I don't know. That's pretty interesting. And then finally, there's been a whole lot of hubbub about Representative Omar from Minnesota. I believe she's from Minnesota. Like to know what your thoughts are about her. I have my own thoughts, and I'll be more than happy to share them with you. But those are my topics. And the phone number is 340-1590. 340-1590. So hopefully, the number one topic, you have to turn, you got your ballot in the mail, and you have to have that ballot in by April 23rd. And I think that's really important. There's prepaid postage on there, so it don't even cost you anything. You just have to take the time to fill it out and send it back in the mail. Please do so. Our teachers are worth it. I think there's been a severe, and I am not exaggerating, a severe undervalue of teachers in our country. And I think it's disgusting. When you think about the fact that your teachers provide the foundation for people that become doctors, lawyers, scientists, engineers, and they have to go at a minimum to get a college degree, and probably at least 2/3 have a master's degree. And many of them, especially some of the minority students, come out of those institutions owing a lot of money for their education. And we treat them like second-class citizens by forcing them to have to spend some of their own money for student supplies, again, which I think is disgusting and not indicative of the way I grew up and the way teachers were treated when I went to school. But I hope you can see your way clear to support the effort. And it's my understanding, one of the things that they're going to have an oversight committee to make sure the money is being spent properly. So, okay, and we have Paul on line 1. Yes, sir.
Hey, good evening, Rudy.
Yes.
Yeah, talking about the teachers and that, I can even remember as a kid, and we're going back to the 60s now, where I actually overheard teachers, like back in the day, I guess you had what they call recess, you went out. played in the playground for a half an hour, and then he came back in. And I remember overhearing conversations from teachers even back then that their pay was like not the greatest. And over the years, it's been the same old thing. And now it's even worse because not only do the teachers, matter of fact, before I moved, there was a couple that lived behind me, and she was a school teacher, and you know, basically told me the same thing. They have to go out, they have to get their own supplies with their own money, and on top of it, put up with the student abuse.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a big bone of contention with me because back in my day, brother, let me tell you something. You mouth off to a teacher, not only could you not talk for a week or sit down for a week, but you just weren't in the classroom. Period. End of story.
Oh,
but now you even yell at a kid, and they want to sue you, and they want to take your teaching documents away, and so I'll be honest with you. I know how I'm going to vote on that tax thing, and absolutely, I think they need all the money they can get. And thank you for listening to my ranting and raving, and I'll hang up and listen to your final comments on the radio. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for calling. I let me tell you, I agree with him 1,000%. 1,000%. You know, they work their butts off, and they have been the sacrificial lambs. Every time there has been a need for a municipality or the state to save money, who do they get? The teachers. Not the firefighters, not the policemen, not the EMT. They get the teachers. And it's because, my conservative friends hate unions. So the teachers are victimized because they're members of unions, and my conservative friends hate unions. Well, folks, I got news for you. Some of those doctors you go to make sure that you're healthy, they're products of the public education system. Some of the lawyers that you go to because you're in trouble and you need advice and you need help, they're products of the public education system. You know, some of the bridges that get built by architects and engineers who figure out how to build them safely so they don't fall down, they're products of the public education system. And think about what an important person those teachers are who have taught those people to go on to be able to do those things that make our life better. I think they deserve it. They're undervalued and underappreciated. And largely, and I don't mind, you can call up and attack me and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's largely because they're unionized and conservatives hate unions. But that should not be. They have too much of an important part of what goes on in the lives of our kids and now our grandkids. And I'm mad because I want my granddaughter to have a good teacher that doesn't leave the school system to go make money because they can't afford to stay there and do a good job teaching. I would venture to guess, except for some teachers that I know that came here and started teaching for a second time, most of the teachers that have come up in this system work 2 jobs. I know some of them that have worked 3 jobs. That's ridiculous. Then they still have to grade papers and they still have to study to be able to know how to teach the subject that they have to present. And believe me, I was an adjunct professor at IRSCC for insurance classes. And it takes time. And I stopped doing it because only for one reason. if there wasn't enough students for the class that they had assigned me to, they would cancel the class, and I didn't get any money. So all the time and preparation that I'd put in to prepare for that class, I did that. That happened to me 2 or 3 times, and I did that for about 3 years. After that happened to me for like the 3rd time, I said, I'm not doing this anymore, because you take all your time to prepare, and then all of a sudden the class is canceled. So I think the world of teachers. I know my friend, who one of my best friends in the world, lives in New York. That guy was doing computer grades before his school system had computers. He had an Apple computer, and he used his 5 1/4-inch floppy disk to keep track of his grades and his students. Now, that was out of his pocket. Now, admittedly, in New York, they make very good money, and he had a master's in chemistry, and he's now retired, and he has a very nice retirement pay, and there won't be any that come behind him to get the kind of money he got. But he had a very, very good, and he taught advanced chemistry and math. So, okay, I'm gonna get off my soapbox about that. But anyway, let's take a look at some of the teachers' salaries that I was able to define. Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting. Okay, in Florida, the average starting salary, now understand, I'm going to give you states that I highlighted here. It's the starting salary and the average pay for that state. In Florida, average starting salary is $35,166. The average salary is $46,598. Georgia, starting salary $33,664. The average salary is $52,880. Now, I will just tell you this, having been a college student myself, depending upon what level of loans you had to take to finish school, $35,166, you are going to be a hurting puppy after you have to pay your loans every month for your education. That's going to be hardly enough to try to allow you to sustain yourself. Jersey, starting salary $48,631. Average salary $68,797. New York, $43,839. Average salary $75,279. Now, you know, New Jersey and New York have very high cost of living. North Carolina, $30,778. Average salary $45,737. Pennsylvania, $41,901. Average salary $62,994. Now, you'll see some of those are higher cost areas, and so that explains some of it. But then some of it is that some of those states just put a little higher value on their teachers than we do. And again, the phone number is 340-1590. That's 340-1590. I don't know. I would think if you listen to what I just told you about teacher salaries, they're not making a windfall with the amount of money that they're getting paid. And I think that they are very important. And for those of you like myself who are grandparents, my God, don't you care about the quality of education for your grandkids? Forget the tribalism and the politics. Do you care about the kind of education your grandkids will get? I guess if you're rich enough that you can afford to send your kids to private school, it doesn't matter to you. But for the average Joe out there, that's a pretty important thing, to be able, for their kids and grandkids to be able to get a decent education. Okay. Here is, last week, we really got on to a tangent about the taxes and what's going on with taxes, and I've been singing the praises now for a few months about the patriotic millionaires, and I played a little piece for you on that from Disney's Daughter. And some of you, I think it was Bill, called up and said, well, I don't care if the company only paid 21%, because the 21% they paid of $1 billion is much more than what I paid at 28%. So what's the big deal? Well, no, I have a big deal with that, because if I got to pay 28% or 30%, and I'm just a little old insurance agent trying to make a living, paying Social Security taxes for employees and payroll taxes for myself and everything else, why should they be able to write that off? Now, let me give you some shocking, and I promise you, all but the most sophisticated are going to be stunned by what I'm getting ready to tell you. IBM in 2018 earned $500 million in U.S. income. And they received, now I want you to listen to this very carefully, they received a $342 million tax rebate. They made $500 million and got a tax rebate of $342 million. Somebody tell me how that works. Amazon made $11 billion, okay, with a B. Amazon made $11 billion in income and got a tax rebate of $129 million. Did you hear that? They made $11 billion and got a tax rebate of $129 million. See, you've been lied to about, and it happens all the time, you've been lied to about America has the highest tax rate in the entire world. Well, we got so many loopholes. Nobody pays the taxes that are supposedly on the books. Netflix paid zero federal income tax on $856 million worth of U.S. income. Molson Coors enjoyed $1.3 billion in U.S. income in 2018 and received a federal income tax rebate of $22.9 million. Did you catch that? $1.3 billion in U.S. income and got a federal tax rebate of $22.9 million. General Motors reported a negative tax rate on $4.3 billion income. I'm waiting for somebody to call up and argue with me about this. I want you to tell me that that's right. And let's look at some of the tax rates as it wears out, considering the income and the taxes paid. So let's go back to Amazon for a second. That $11 billion and the $129 million gave them an effective tax rate of -1%. Hello? Hello? Minus 1%. Okay? I would tell you, here's another one. Unbelievable. Delta Airlines, $5,073,000,000. Federal tax refund of $187 million, and a effective tax rate of minus 4%. Now, I just want to tell you this, because it's very important for you to understand this. There's nothing illegal about what I'm telling you. It's the tax laws allow them to do this. And we got Chuck on line one. Yes, sir.
Hey, Rudy, how we doing today?
Okay.
Yeah, we're all right. Well, one, you should be railing against your congressmen and your senators because they write the tax laws, and they should be the ones to cut off the loopholes. So, that's the way I see it. And for your Mueller report, they can't release it. They have to redact it because they have grand jury evidence on there that cannot be released by law, so it has to be redacted. And thirdly,
okay,
the young lady in the white fragility, like I told you, she's trying to put everybody very neatly into a little box, which you can't do because everybody within that race is different. I'm willing to talk race. I'm not going to fall down and be emotionally distraught like she said it. I'm not going to be that way. I just don't think that, she's trying to do the same thing. It's like I said, she can't put all the black race in one little box. You just can't do that because everybody is different. Now, I'm sure the white supremacists and the KKK and the skinheads, they probably go off the rails if you try to talk race to them. But a logical person is not going to. So,
well, I don't find that to be true for the most part. But go ahead, keep going.
No. That's it. Well,
okay, and
that's what I think.
I'm going to tell you. First of all,
okay.
for full disclosure, Chuck is the person that sent me that YouTube, and I haven't finished it yet.
Yes, I
didn't get that out of that. What I think she did, and I thought she did it very effectively from what I've seen, and I've only saw about 30 minutes of it.
Right.
She said that part of the opinions that white people form is because they don't have a good grasp of history and the history that's associated with black folks. And she included a person who's responsible for racial diversity. She included herself in that and said she realized at some point that she had not completely been honest with herself about some of her feelings.
Right.
The other thing she said, and this is something that I find to be very true, in very few occasions where I find it to be not true. A lot of white people, as she said, consider themselves to not be prejudiced, and they say stupid, ridiculous things that end up getting them in trouble or giving a bad impression about who they are. Now, and I'll give you just one example.
Go ahead.
There's a buddy of mine, Ken Reed Penning. He since his wife died, and he since sold his business. He had a poster in his shop of President Obama with a witch doctor's outfit and a bone in his nose. And, you've seen that poster probably.
No, I haven't. No.
Okay, well, I came in there.
No, I can imagine it. I have a vivid imagination.
Okay, so I went in there and I said, Ken, let me tell you something. He said, well, what's that, Rude? And I've known him and his wife for years. I said, if I came in this your store and I saw that poster and I didn't know you like I do now, I would never come back here and I'd never do business with you ever again.
Right. I can appreciate that.
He looked at me and he went up there and he pulled it down. See, that was a lack of sensitivity to putting up something that was that prejudicial and racist. And that happens a lot. I've had people tell me stuff. See, the problem with me is this. If you say something around me that I think's off base, I'm going to call you down. A lot of black people don't do that because they're trying to be gracious and they don't want to start any conflict. And I don't do that because I don't think I'm doing you any favor if you say something that I know is stupid or is offensive and I let you just give you a pass to be nice. I haven't been good to you.
True. But it's all in the manner and how you address them, too, is it not? To get your point across?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we meet in the store, we have never seen each other in our life. If you go up and you be natural and say hi to someone, and you just start talking with them, I don't see the race issue there. I don't see it that way. I mean, we're human beings. If I cut you open and you cut me open, we're both going to bleed red blood, okay? We've got the same wants and needs. You want to provide for your wife, your family, your retirement, your grandkids. I do too. Everybody's got the same wants and needs. You're right. It's stupidity that comes out on the fringe people that are dominating everything. They should be excoriated and set to the side. Now, Charlottesville is a perfect example.
Yeah.
For the longest time, when the KKK and the white supremacists come in town, there is a heavy police and military presence, and they are cordoned off. They are not allowed to get to the other people. The other people aren't allowed to get them. They yell there and they make asses out of each other, but there is no violence. In Charlottesville, that did not happen. They were unprepared. They knew what they had coming, and they gave up on their responsibility. That lady should not have died. There should have been no contact and no fighting between either group. Both groups were there to agitate with each other and get their licks in. It just should not happen. For the longest time, this has been the process where you keep them isolated. And they should be isolated, and they should be known that they're not wanted and their thoughts are not acceptable. They should not be what's driving this country.
So I get that. So why have, and see, here's a question I have. And maybe you can help me with this.
Okay.
Why have they reemerged after so many years of being buried inside the woodwork? What happened?
Well, when did they start coming out? A guesstimate on your part. How long ago?
Oh, I would have to say probably it started in the second term of President Obama.
Nah. I go back farther than that. History, Rudy. When did the internet start taking hold? When did it start becoming into the houses, into the family home and stuff?
So you're blaming it on the internet?
No, I'm not blaming it on the internet. You asked me how they became out again. They start going on the internet and they go to like pages. They build on each other. Other people see these pages and start wondering, it's like with ISIS. People went to those pages, what do you know? The next thing they're in Syria fighting on the side of ISIS. That's what I'm saying. The internet is not boosting them, but encouraging them. They're getting fed on each other's hatred.
No, I'm going to tell you why I reject that.
Okay.
I reject that because it was clearly very unpopular to associate yourself with any of those movements. By the time we got to the 90s, that was an extremely unpopular thing. So anybody that was associating with white supremacists or the KKK, they were pretty much in the closet. Now they've come out of the closet. Now you're saying because the internet has attracted them, and I'm saying that there had to be some other force that pulled them out of the closet other than that. And I think, and I got to the point where I cut her off. She was talking about that, about how in the current climate, people's prejudice have reemerged. But I didn't finish hearing what she had to say.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember that. Well, I got a mind like Swiss cheese right now. Things go through it. But the other thing, too, is cable TV. And you've got these 24-hour stations, and they have to have stuff to keep their ratings up. And they've got a glimpse, they're starting to get a sound piece, starting to get attention to themselves. And now it's, and I don't doubt that. I would say probably the first term of Obama, it brought people out. Their hatred started coming back out again and became popular. But that's ignorance and fear on their part.
Yeah, because here's the problem, and I've talked about this before, and this is a statistic that you can find on the internet, and I know you're a guy that researches.
Yep.
75% of most white folks have never had a intimate relationship with a non-white person, and I don't mean that in a sexual sense, but
I understand.
Okay, all right. 75%. So, as a consequence, your ideology of who I am is made up from what? TV, movies.
Perception.
Huh?
Perception.
Yeah, perception.
It's what you perceive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I spent a bunch of time in the military, so I had a lot of friends in all races and all, but I only saw green. And I had a guy, he was an E6, I was an E6. We both had glasses. We both had a mustache. He was black, I was white. We used to get people flustered. I'd say, hey, you talked with Mom lately? And he'd go, no, you heard from her? And they'd just look at us like we had two heads,
Chuck,
And that's in the military, because that's a cross-section of the country.
Yeah, I got to let you go because I got other calls. But
Yeah, you got other people. Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Rudy. We'll
Thank
talk
you,
with you
sir.
later, buddy.
Yeah, thank you
Bye-bye.
very much. Okay. And we got Jay. Jay, my friend, how are you?
Hello.
How you doing, Jay?
Okay, pretty good. Good. I'm just glad to hear your voice. I just want to just give you my thoughts on what you just said. How did these white supremacists and these neo-Nazis got, they feel real bold now. They're coming out of the, coming from underneath their hole in the ground, and they're, creating a lot of havoc out here. There's a lot of, and the thing that's really so sad is that Homeland Security refuses to call the domestic terrorists. They just I don't know what's wrong with the Senate. McConnell refuses to use that word, domestic terrorists. That's what they are, and the most. They found the statistic. The FBI already said it. That most people that are being killed is not people of foreigners or people coming across the border. It's us. It's the Americans, and it's really coming from the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists and all of that, and also with Donald Trump being elected president, they're very bold because they feel like they got somebody there that supports them, and
Yes.
he said they're very fine people down in Charlottesville, what they did and walking around talking about the Jews won't replace us, and they talk about anti-Semitism, huh? No, let's talk about what they were marching and saying with the carrying those torches.
Yeah.
Remind me of looking at some of the old World War II films of neo-Nazis.
Yeah.
They're in Russia and Germany. That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looked like to, the average ordinary person. Maybe they had blinders on, but it reminded me so much of some of those footages I saw of World War II with them marching through Germany, and the good Germans were very quiet all through that whole period because it wasn't affecting them. I'm not a Jew, I'm not gay, I'm not the, whoever they were hating on or harassing or killing or putting in jail or putting in camps, death camps. So, it's just going on, and it's just kind of very bad. I could imagine going to another country right now and people asking you where you're from.
Oh, yeah.
I could imagine what a foreigner would say to me. I'm going to be traveling pretty soon, and I'm going to do, and I know I'm going to get that question. They're going to say, well, what the hell is going on in the United States? What's going on? And you got people that are in denial here. I don't understand why so many Americans are in denial.
Well, I got my reading books are backed up, but I got another book that I have to read that a guy wrote where he tries to treat that, deal with what that's all about. That's my third book that's on my list of things that I have to read. But yeah, I met a guy at the gym, and he was on his way to Europe, and this was last summer. Mm-hmm. And he said when he got to Europe, he was not telling anybody that he was from America.
Boy.
I said, you're not? He said, no way. I said, well, I don't know. And I got a guy that I write. I have 3 or 4 units of his up in the PGA that he rents out, and he's from Canada. Mm-hmm. And when he added this last unit, he called me up and he said, can I ask you a question? And I said, yeah, you can ask me a question. He said, how in the heck did you go from President Obama to Donald Trump? How could you do that? I said, well, I didn't do it. He said, I don't understand how y'all did that. I go, well, I don't know. But there is this perception out there that here's the thing with Trump. It's his bad manners, his misbehaving and his bad manners are offensive to other people around the world and is inconsistent with who we are as a people. There's just some things that require good manners. He has none.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
I just wondering how long this is going to last. I just want to make this last statement. My whole thing. I went through public school, and as I went through it, it was the teachers were more respected when I was growing up, and were more respected than law enforcement people.
Yeah.
They were more respected than and doctors, anybody. They just seem like they can walk on water, and it's just something that's going on now that I don't know if it's because we got a lot of these private schools popping up with the money going there, and they're draining money from the public schools. When I talk to people, I said public schools, they don't deny any kid. They take all kids. I don't care what kind of disability they have. Public schools takes all children.
Yeah. And
they don't single or try to stop anybody from coming into a public. They don't do it. I said, but you go to a private school where they filter the best from the public school, and then we're paying, and taxpayers are paying money for private schools now.
Yeah.
We're paying for private schools, which is ridiculous. All that money that we pay in taxes for education, it should be strictly for public school education.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to bend your ear too much. I just wanted to let you know what I thought about these, these KKK and all these other people coming out from under the woodwork, and you got to be alert. We have to be on top of all of this, and let's hope that we can see that report tomorrow.
Yeah, I hope so. We will eventually.
Take care.
Thank you, Jay.
Anytime.
Yeah, I'll tell you. It's now. Let me just say this. There's been all of this brouhaha about Omar from Minnesota and some of the statements that she's made about conditions here in this country. And everybody is ready to take her, tie her to a tree, and lynch her for being anti-American. Now, here's my statement. Some of the things she said I don't agree with. Some of the things that she said are true. But here's what I want to know. When Alex Jones, that jerk, was saying on the radio that Newtown was a hoax and that the kids there didn't die, did you get upset about that? Did you call your congressmen and senators and say that you are deeply offended that that conservative talking head would get on the radio and say that those kids that died really didn't die, it was a hoax? Did that piss you off? You telling me about Omar, I want to know, did Alex Jones piss you off? That those parents that lost their little kids had to listen to this jerk tell people it really didn't happen. And you know he's in court with that now. But I just want to tell you, here, you know, you got to stop this double standard. Stop it. Because until you stop that, we're going to continue to have this tribal situation and tension that we have. There is no way that that should have been allowed to be said and go unaddressed. That was offensive, and it was crushing to those people that lost little kids that were killed by that maniac with a gun. So I dare you to call up and challenge me about that, because if you call up and tell me about what should be done to Omar, I want to know what has been done, should be done to Alex Jones. And Sean Hannity gets on there and tells lies on a regular basis. Okay, all right, off of that. I'm off of that. So let's talk about this lottery money. That's gonna be my last thing for the night, because you challenged me, and I met the challenge. I went out there, and I found out what happens with the lottery money. You said you don't think that the lottery money is spent on education. Well, let me tell you what I found out. The lottery money was somewhere around $3.9 billion in total sales. And nearly 60% of that went to prize pools. That's the money that was to be paid out for people that actually won prizes. Just below 2% of that goes to administrative costs, including advertisement. And I would say to you, as a businessman, that is a very reasonable number, 2% of gross sales going to administrative costs. Very, very fair number, very fair number. That left almost 32%, or $1.24 billion, for education. Now, more has gone to prizes to grow. More money has, the amount of money has been dropping because they have spent more money to prizes in order to grow the overall lottery pie. By law, the education money goes to the Florida Educational Enhancement Trust Fund. How about that? That's where the money goes for the lottery. The Educational Trust Fund. And they got an additional $170 million from slot machines. So how did the total $1.4 billion from the lottery and slots get distributed? The biggest chunk, 30%, which was $426 million, went to Bright Future scholarships. Okay? So roughly 30% of the total money from the lottery went to Bright Future scholarships. I think that's a pretty worthy endeavor to be able to help kids go to college. Just over 22% went to state universities and community colleges. So roughly $316 million went to state universities and community colleges. It was not a lot of money given the amount of colleges and universities we have in this state, but still that's pretty good. Just over 21%, almost 22%, went to school construction bonds. So we had about $311 million that went for school construction bonds. Just over 2.5% went to financial aid programs. So roughly $35 million went to financial aid program, college financial aid programs. So as you can see, contrary to what many of you believe, there's been a pretty productive use of the lottery money. And I will just tell you that since the state lottery began in 1987, and from 1987 to 2000, and let's see, I think this is 19, there has been $22 billion that have gone to the educational fund. I'm sorry, that's 2011. $22 billion have gone to the educational fund. That's a pretty healthy amount of money. But there you have it. So you asked me, I went out and I did the work, and so now you know where your lottery money is going. And I'm pretty satisfied, especially I was afraid that I was going to find that administration number to be something like 10%, and I'd have been unhappy with that. But 2%, as a businessman, I'll tell you all day, and on Sunday too, 2% administrative costs is a very realistic number given the size of the fund. Well, we had another interesting week for the African American scene, and as always, it's a pleasure to be with you here on Wednesday nights. And we're coming up on Easter, and I hope everybody has a wonderful Easter. Enjoy your family, eat some good food, and God bless you, and I will see you next Wednesday right here for the African American Scene.
The African American Scene with Rudy Howard, presented each week at this time by Howard Insurance of Port St. Lucie. Listen in for Rudy Howard's African American Scene Wednesday evenings in the 6 o'clock hour. Archives of this show are in video on YouTube. Go to WPSLTV.com to see what we've got on YouTube, including the African American Scene with Rudy Howard, the program that you just heard. This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast, webcaster to the world, celebrating 25 years and counting.